What she's doing almost sounds like a bit of a diss rap to me. Oh my goodness, this is going to be taken out of context one day. Hey everyone, my name is Christoph Jakob. I'm a music composer for video games. Today, let's check out another track by Deep Cut from Splatoon 3. This one is apparently called Hide and Sleek. Also used to be known as Raid Under Storm and Stress. A fan name which was the literal translation of the Japanese name Shippuro to Kachikondoru. Let's go! Very nice. It's building up. Hide and Sleek is one of the late game tunes from the single-player campaign. The music starts roughly like you expect your typical Deep Cut song to start. But there's something different. The very first thing that I notice is actually something a little negative. But this could also just be owing to the version that we're listening to here. Unlike all the other Deep Cut songs we've looked at so far, the overall mix of the music feels a little thin and weak. At least to my ears. If you don't know anything about music production whatsoever, when composers are talking about the mix, we rarely talk about the actual composition itself, but more so how the music sounds and how the music feels. What's the focus of the tune? What part of the composition or which instrument is able to grab our attention? Are there instruments that occupy similar frequencies and clash in the mix? By clash, I mean, does it sound like some instruments are fighting against each other instead of collaborating? And things like that. The intro section of Hide and Sleek is played mostly by kinda held back drums and percussion, as well as different synth sounds which outline some sort of D sound. Due to the lack of information the tune has given us so far, it's hard to say what exactly this chord is. But upon very close listening, you can hear that it's probably a D Dorian sound. In some of my older videos, I already talked about the so-called Dorian scale twice. A combination of notes of a scale that appear all over the Splatoon soundtracks. This is a D minor scale. And this is a D Dorian scale. Simply put, D Dorian is a minor, so a sad scale, but it's much brighter than your regular minor scale. That's because one of the main notes that makes a minor chord in the first place, the so-called B6 or flat 6, has been raised to a normal 6. If you're trying to pay close attention to what this bassy melody is doing in the intro, it's doing something like this. First, something like this, and playing around a little, and later it's doing this. And there it is. Your 6th. This one chord, as well as Shiver and a rising synth texture, prepare us for the verse section. Listen to the bass. One thing that connects this song with other tunes like Till Death Do Us Part is that they have an awesome, cool and edgy bass line. The Dorian vibes I was talking about earlier seem completely gone now. But this could also be because there's no real emphasis on any sixth note in this entire section. Instead, we're presented with blues vibes, while Shiver is rapping. Is it really rapping? It sounds more like soft and gentle spoken singing. And as always, you can hear Shiver slightly on your left ear. Sadly, the cool and edgy bass seems to completely disappear after the first half of Shiver's performance and is replaced by a different, yet not nearly as low synth bass. This bass is doing something quite interesting though. The new bass line is implying that the tune is jumping back and forth between a D minor and a C minor chord. Quite a unique sound that might remind you of desert music from video games instantly, which use this kind of movement all the time. Oh, this sounds like Fry. You can feel that it's building up to something. That's such a nice chord progression here. After Shiver finished performing her part, we get to hear We get to hear a short instrumental segment that just screams Arabic to my ears. Many of us would probably just label it as Oriental. The tune introduces a small movement here, which on its own might already give us the association of desert, without any context whatsoever. It's a quite stereotypical and easy thing to do if you want your music to sound Oriental. You need a half step. In our case, it's the jump from the root note to the so-called B2 or flat 2. And a big leap from the flat 2 to the 3, which is 3 half steps away. I think it's actually a quite nice way to subconsciously tell the listener that Shiver's part is over and Fry is about to perform her part now. What she's doing is almost identical to what Shiver has just done, except for her vocals and some very minor flavors and flourishments. As always, you can hear Fry slightly on your right ear. And I'd say her singing is definitely much closer to rapping. What she's doing almost sounds like a bit of a diss rap to me. Oh my goodness, this is going to be taken out of context one day. After that, oh yeah, can we talk about this upcoming part, please? I really love the chords that the composers chose for this section. I've talked in detail about one of the elements that is being used here in my Sonic Frontiers final boss analysis video. The so-called flat 6 chord in Roman numerals. When a piece of music has been focusing on and around the one chord, so our root chord, our home base, the chord that feels the most resolved. Many pieces of music start and end with the one chord. When that one chord suddenly drops down to the flat 6 chord, you can pretty much guarantee that it's going to sound either epic, heroic, adventurous, or just really, really emotional. So far, this entire tune has pretty much focused on a one chord, which in our case was a D minor chord. So this is ingrained in our brains as our home base. This is what feels the most resolved. In the chorus section, we're starting on this chord. So good. This is probably the most straightforward and simple chord progression I've heard in a deep cut song so far. But more often than not, simple and straightforward might just be what the tune needs. Having complex chords and complicated melodic movements does not automatically make your music better. And especially for a chorus section like this, which is usually meant to serve as some sort of hook, the thing you remember most once the song's over, simplistic is often a really good way to go. This is the chord progression. Also, shout out to Big Man, who joins in the chorus section as well. Can we get some love for Big Man in the comments? And once again, the bass is so awesome. And it loops already. I wish the tune would have been a little longer, but it's really good. Thanks for watching. For more reaction and analysis videos about Splatoon content, you can click here. For my own little Splatoon inspired album, you can click here. And for some of the music that I've written for video games, you can click here. See you next time.